Buckle up because we're going to add cooking under the create portion of our name today, and you're going to meet my mom.
Ashley asked me to teach you guys how to make marshmallows.
That's right, we're making homemade marshmallows today, and I promise they're easier than they sound. Since my mom doesn't live as close to me as I would like, I took the advantage of reviewing this family recipe the last time I was visiting. And of course, I put my own magical flair on the end. Let's get started.
Hi everyone, I'm Ashley's mom, and welcome to Ashley's Mom's Kitchen. Today we are going to make two different versions of homemade marshmallows.
It was one of my favorite things that we did during the holidays.
And she does love them so much.
I say if you think you don't like marshmallow, you really don't like the preservatives because fresh marshmallow is amazing.
They are unbelievable. And we are going to teach two versions of marshmallows today. One is using Italian meringue and the other is using just sugar and corn syrup. The Italian meringue marshmallows are a little more challenging. However, they are so light and so delicious and fluffy that they are worth the little bit of extra time and effort that it takes to use them. However, when you're making the corn syrup and sugar method, it is a lot easier and more approachable. Whichever version you choose to make, you're going to need some basic equipment. So let's start with the mixer that you're going to use. I have a couple of stand mixers here. They have a little bit of difference in what the bowls are. This one has a metal bowl. Metal bowls have the advantage of cooling and heating quicker than the alternative of using a glass bowl. However, for today's purposes, we're going to choose the glass bowl so you can see the procedure that is happening while the marshmallows are being made.
Hi, Editing Ashley here. We also discovered through several trial runs that another benefit of this glass bowl mixer is that the beater reaches all the way to the bottom of it. That is not the case with the metal bowl.
The other option that is available to you is my dear little Ashley's favorite.
Surprise! I used this all through college. So don't think, oh, I don't have a stand mixer, this won't work for me. It totally will, and you'll get a massive workout.
The only other equipment you're going to need is basic measuring equipment, a spatula, liquid measure, dry measure, teaspoons. You're going to need some pans, and we are using aluminum pans today simply for convenience sake and the fact that
I'm taking them with me.
Ashley needs to make them transportable because if she takes my regular good pans, I'll never see them again. The other thing you're going to need is just a basic pot, but you are going to need some type of thermometer. This is a basic candy thermometer. It has a guard at the end. This protects the bulb from hitting the bottom of the pan and giving you a false reading. Regardless of which candy thermometer you choose, make sure that it is not going to touch the bottom of your pan. If it touches the bottom of your pan, it will give you a false reading and ruin your marshmallow mixture.
This prep is also going to be the same no matter which version of marshmallows you make. So your first ingredients you'll need are Pam, parchment paper, and powdered sugar, because if you can't get the marshmallows out of your pan, there's no point in producing your product.
So first thing is pan preparation. It's pretty easy, simple. Little Pam in the bottom of each of your things, because we're making two versions. We've got two aluminum pans. We also want one of our marshmallows to be thicker, so we're using a smaller pan, where we also want some thinner to do some cutouts with, so that's why we have two different shapes of pans. So take your parchment, stick it in the bottom of the pan here, just fold it down in, and take your Pam, spray again, and take your parchment and lay it the other direction. That'll give you handles to lift your marshmallows out of the aluminum pan.
Honestly, the size of the pan is up to you, but we wanted to show that the smaller the pan, the thicker the marshmallows, and conversely, the larger the pan, the thinner your marshmallows will be. And make sure to get the parchment paper into all of the corners just to help those marshmallows lie flat. And putting the pan on each layer will really help stick the parchment paper to the pan so you're not wrestling with it, as well as help it come out like a dream when it has finished setting.
Then we're going to take this lovely powdered sugar and just sprinkle over the bottom of the pan. Not only does it flavor the marshmallows, but it will help them not stick in the pan as well. Makes it a little easier to get them out. That's all there is to your pan prep, but you need to do this first because those marshmallows set really fast. So get this done before you start your marshmallows.
We're going to start by making the Italian meringue version, or what I call the egg whites version, and this is the ingredients you will need. Don't worry, these will also be written in the description box down below. The first thing you're going to want to do is take those 6 tablespoons of water and your packet of gelatin and combine them so they are ready for use.
We're going to start by making a sugar syrup, which is just sweetened water, really. First of all, I'm going to turn my stovetop on to high. I have 3/4 cup of water here. Just going to pour that right in. 2 cups of granulated sugar. We're going to pour that right in. I'm going to mix these together to start the sugar dissolving. And then I am going to add to this mixture a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. Now the reason we're adding cream of tartar to our mixture is cream of tartar acts as a stabilizer for whipped egg whites, helping them to not separate, not to coagulate, and to keep them separate in the whipping process. So it's just a good way to stabilize your egg whites. A little known trick of the trades from way back when. My mom taught me about it, and we have continued using it very successfully. The next thing we're going to do here is to let this mixture come up to a boil. Now I want to make sure that my sugar is dissolving in this water and that it is getting heated. What's going to happen here is this mixture is going to come to a rolling boil, or a semi-rolling boil. We want this thermostat to get to 240 degrees, which is called a softball stage in candy making. Now, if you do not have a candy thermometer, no need to panic. You can test the temperature of your sugar syrup by dropping a little bit of it in cold water, and I'll show you how to do that when we get to that stage. But right now, we just want this to come to a rolling boil, and then I'm going to turn the temperature down to maintain the boil without the pot boiling over.
It's hard to say exactly how much time this will take because it will vary by your cooktop. For example, gas heats up a lot faster than electric, but both options work. You just want to make sure that you're really paying attention to the temperature on your candy thermometer, and then I wanted to show you what a rolling boil actually looks like.
Okay, once it achieves this boil, I want to reduce the heat so I don't have a bubble over. So I'm going to reduce that, but I'm still going to maintain that boil so I can get the temperature up to 240 degrees. Basically, all we have now is to wait until that happens. You do not stir your sugar syrup at this point. If you stir the sugar syrup, it's going to cause sloshes up alongside the pan, which will cause crystallization in your sugar syrup. That's really bad for making marshmallows. It means your marshmallows are going to turn to sugar instead of have that luscious, fluffy mixture going on. So do not stir the mixture. Just let it boil until it hits temp, and then we'll take it off the stove. In the meantime, let's get our egg whites starting to beat. These are just 2 egg whites. Make sure no yolk gets in them. Cold, they need to be fresh out of the fridge, and just dump them in the bowl of your mixer. Turn them on high and let them go.
And now we've reached the stage where you will definitely benefit from a stand mixer instead of the hand one, because you are going to let this go until you get stiff peaks in your egg whites. It will vary by your equipment, so again, we'll show you what that looks like here. And we are still keeping a close eye on our sugar syrup, waiting for that softball stage temperature so that we can add it to our egg mixture. Here it's been about maybe 3 minutes and you can see that the color is changing, as well as when we say peaks, I look at them and think ridges. You want to be able to make shapes with the egg whites.
I am going to take the heat off of this. And if I didn't have the luxury of a candy thermometer, I can tell if I'm at softball to taking a little bit of this sugar syrup and dumping it in some water. And if you can see how it's coming together on the bottom of the bowl, and it looks like soft candy. That is softball stage. So our sugar syrup is ready to go.
Once your sugar syrup has come to temperature, you don't want to sit and wait. You're going to take it right over to your egg whites to start combining the two. But don't just pour it in. You are actually looking for a sweet spot. So you're going to want to start the mixer slower and make sure that when you are pouring, that the stream doesn't hit the side of the bowl, because you don't want that crystallization, but you also don't want it to hit the whisk as it's going around, because that will also cause the mixture to hit the side of the bowl and cause that crystallization. So you want a sweet spot where you're just slowly pouring right in between the whisk and the side of the bowl, which is why it's okay to turn the speed down for this. And once everything is incorporated, you can turn it right back up and let her rip. After a couple times around the bowl, you're actually ready for another ingredient. Yep, see that? That right there? That's our gelatin that I actually did not get footage of us pouring into the mixer. So once the sugar syrup has been poured, make sure to put the gelatin in before you turn the mixer up so that you can start cooling down that mixture. As you can see, the bowl is warm. You can see the heat and the steam coming off of it. We are just going to whip this until it cools down to form stiff peaks. This can take anywhere between 10 and 15 minutes depending on your mixer. This is about 7 minutes into the mixing, and you can see that we're starting to get those ridges or those peaks forming, but the mixture itself hasn't completely cooled down yet, so now's a good time to incorporate the salt so that it dissolves into the mixture and you're not getting grains as you're eating your marshmallows. Here you can see my mom checking the temperature of the mixture by putting her hand on the bowl. It's cooling down nicely, and we can see the texture forming on the inside of the bowl. Now it's time to talk about adding our flavoring. We're making a vanilla version here, so we're going to add our 2 tablespoons now, but honestly, the sky's the limit as far as what you can add. You could do orange, coconut, peppermint, whatever you would like to try in your version.
So we're going to check and see where our peak mixtures is on this. So I'm going to remove this from the bowl, and those are still not forming the peaks that I want. It's still a little runny, so we need to whip it for a few more minutes. So I'm going to reattach the bowl to the base and continue whipping.
Again, this whole process is about 10 to 15 minutes, but you are going to want to pay attention to what your mixture looks like. That's why we're showing you how we test when it's done.
Okay, it's time to check our mixture once more, find out where we're at. Now, if you can tell the difference now, we have stiff peaks that have formed. They'll stand up by themselves, and that's right where we want the marshmallow mixture to be. So it's time to take these out and put them in our already prepared pan. These will set up fast, so this is quick work you want to make of this. Then I am going to take an offset spatula and get these poured into our pan. And we're going to use the 9x13 pan for these meringue marshmallows. See how lovely and white and pillowy that's going to be.
Now, as she's scooping this into the pan, I actually wanted to talk about this recipe itself, and there's no better person to introduce it than my mom.
Hey everyone, I am Ashley's mom. My name is Yvonne, which was given to me by my beautiful French mother, and obviously it is a French name. She was a good baker by her own rights, and she gave me this recipe, or taught me how to make this recipe, when I was a young girl. We would make candy every Christmas, and this was one of our favorites. This recipe was actually given to her mom by her mom, so it has been passed from generation to generation, and I am now passing it on to Ashley. It takes me right back to my childhood when we make these. And this is something that Ashley and I have enjoyed making at Christmas time for many, 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 many years. And since I moved, it has been one of those traditions we have sorely missed doing together. So I am happy to be here to help her add this to her YouTube channel. And I hope you all enjoy our day of making marshmallows. And don't worry about it getting perfectly square in your pan. When you take the marshmallows out after they have set, you can square up the edges with either a pizza cutter or just a basic chef's knife. So don't get too hung up on getting them square in the pan. And there is our first pan of marshmallows. Look how pretty! I'm so excited. Now at this point, I'm going to leave this like it is. I'm going to cover it with some aluminum foil and put it in a nice cool place, not the refrigerator, and they will set up. Takes about 6 hours to have them set. It's best to have them set overnight, and then we will have lovely marshmallows.
Now we're going to start with our corn syrup version. You can see that the ingredient list is smaller, but you can still find it in the description box down below. We're also starting with our 1/2 cup cold water and mixing our gelatin in to make sure it is fully incorporated.
And then we are going to move to the stove top. I have 2 cups of sugar, 3/4 of a cup of warm water. I'm going to put the water in the pot with the 2 cups of sugar. I'm going to turn my heat on, and I am going to get my 1 cup of corn syrup, and it is divided into 1/2 cups. And I'll show you why in just a minute. So we're going to let this sugar water start to break down. And the same as with our other version, we want to stir this until it starts dissolving into the water, but we don't want to overly stir this, again, to prevent the crystallization of those sugars up on the pan. If by chance you do happen to get those sugars up on the pan and you have a little bit of crystallization that happens, just take a little paintbrush or a basting brush with a little bit of water and run around the outside of your pan to get those sugar crystals back down into the pan, and they will stop creating sugar in your marshmallows. So right now we are going to wait to bring this up to softball stage again, which is between 238, 240 on the temperature. And we're going to keep an eye on that thermometer to make sure that we don't get it past the softball stage, or we'll have really yucky marshmallows. They won't set for us.
Pay attention to those bubbles on the side, because once you start seeing them,
I am going to add 1/2 cup of this corn syrup into my mixture. And again, I'm going to kind of mix it in gently so it gets incorporated into the sugar and water.
then, as with the previous one, we are waiting for this to get to a rolling boil before reducing the heat.
Now I'm starting to get my boil, so I want to reduce the heat so it doesn't boil over my pan, but I still want to maintain those bubbles. And now we just start to watch the temperature until we get to the softball stage.
As you can see, we start out very similar with this corn syrup recipe, and we wanted to show this version as well because it is a lot easier to find since it's a bit more approachable. But if you're looking to increase your skills or just try a different flavor, we definitely recommend the meringue one.
And we are at softball stage. So I'm going to turn off my heat, remove my candy thermometer, and remove the syrup from the burner, and I'll add the remaining 1/2 cup of corn syrup into the mixture. And I'm just going to stir that right into the hot mixture. It'll cool it down just enough for us to start whipping it up. Now I'm going to take this to our mixer. And add it into our bowl.
Side note, there's nothing else in the bowl.
So as you can tell, there's not as many steps to get this particular marshmallow done. It's a lot easier time for prep. And that's pretty much it. Once you get it in the bowl, we're just going to start whipping it on high.
And now, just like with the last one, we're going to let this run for several minutes. It's hard to give an exact time because it is based on what you're using, but plan on at least 10 and then watch the mixture as it turns. It will literally start to look like marshmallow fluff. And as you start getting those peaks, don't forget to add the flavoring of your choice.
We're going to check the mixture, see where we're at with and that looks about done, folks. These will not get those nice, pretty high peaks that we get with the Italian meringue marshmallows. It's just not going to be the same type of mixture, but these are going to be tender and delicious all the same. We're going to take our prepared pan and move this marshmallow mixture right into the pan. Now remember, this is going to be our thicker batch, so it's going to come right up to the brim, maybe even over the brim. So we're just going to smooth that out. And so there is our second batch of marshmallows, and you can tell we have all sorts of good fluffiness left behind. You can actually store this in a mason jar and use it as you would marshmallow whip. So, but I think Ashley and I are probably going to eat this. So, yay for us.
This batch also sets up the same way as the last one. You want to keep it in a cool place, but not the refrigerator. Cover it with aluminum foil, and especially since this is so thick, definitely let them set overnight. As an added bonus, because this is essentially just sugar, cleanup is super easy with just hot water and soap. The left side is our meringue marshmallows, while the right side is our traditional corn syrup. And while it's hard to see the difference here, you will definitely notice a difference while we are cutting these out after they set. Once those marshmallows have set, you're going to need a few more ingredients to help cut them out. That is powdered sugar, cornstarch, a sifter, any type of pan to dust them on, and some parchment paper to help keep everything clean. Now, you're going to take equal parts of both the powdered sugar and the cornstarch. In this case, we're taking half a cup of each and put them through that sifter. That just makes sure all of the lumps are out and you won't get any stuck to the sides of your marshmallows. So if you're going to use the parchment paper, make sure to put it on before you start sifting. That will help with your cleanup. And a tip from my mom, once you do hit those lumps, you don't need to throw them away. You can just force them through the sifter. That way you just don't notice them in your final product. And now here's where your pan prep really pays off. You can take the sides of those parchment paper and pop the marshmallow right out of your pan. Now there are a couple different ways that you can finish these marshmallows, and the first way we're going to show you is simply slicing it into cubes. One trick is before you slice them, make sure to spray your knife with Pam. You can also use a pizza wheel for this, but we're going to slice off the edges to make it clean and straight, and then it's just breaking it into the sizes that you want.
Go pretty! And then cut these beautiful little cubes of marshmallow. It's all fluffy.
Once they're cut, they're ready to be rolled in our powdered sugar cornstarch mixture, and it's important to coat them in this because this is how you package them. This is how they become individual marshmallows, and you can use them for things like gifts or hot chocolate because they won't stick to each other, making them unusable. Now, there is nothing wrong with having the marshmallows in cubes. In fact, we've been doing that for years. But because I'm extra, I wanted to see if we could cut shapes with cookie cutters. And bless my mom, she was so willing to try. So we took one of my Harry Potter cookie cutters and dusted it in that same mixture to help make it not stick. And look at that satisfying marshmallow peel. I didn't know I needed that in my life. And we're so thrilled.
Voila! That's so cool! And our lightning bolt has come to life.
So now I know cutting out shapes works with our egg whites marshmallows, but I wanted to see if we could do it with the more traditional corn syrup ones. Now, upon taking this out of the pan, something that you'll notice immediately is it's a lot thicker, not just because of the pan, but because of the consistency itself. It's just denser. It's also stickier. So instead of putting the cookie cutter through the powdered sugar, we're actually going to run it under hot water to help it cut through this really dense marshmallow. This mixture is so dense, we were actually worried about it going all the way through the marshmallow. Instead of that buttery, soft meringue, you are pushing with all your weight to get this through. But look at that pullback. It's so pretty. And even though we were apprehensive, we actually discovered that this does have a very nice, clean line.
Okay, this one actually does give a cleaner line, however.
Honestly, that's just such a pretty marshmallow, and it makes us wonder that if we added more gelatin to our egg whites recipe, if that would give us the same clean line, but still that buttery soft cut. So that's something that we want to try next time. Now let's talk about one of the most important parts, which is taste, because I don't really like making food that is more for show than for eating. Hands down, the meringue for me is such a good taste. It's light, it's fluffy, and it's a gourmet marshmallow. The corn syrup marshmallow, however, not only would be amazing on a s'mores because it just lasts longer in your mouth, but it also has more of that traditional marshmallow taste that you expect from a store. It's just minus the preservatives. So these recipes allow you to decide what you want to do as far as prep and as far as taste. A couple days later, I finished cutting out the rest of the marshmallows at home with my Harry Potter cookie cutters. I started with the corn syrup version, and as you can tell, it is so thick. I would really love to try this with a 9x13 because I think it would just make the whole process easier. I would definitely save the thick ones for just cubes and not cutting it out. I also swear that this substance got stickier as it sat for a couple days because getting it out of the cookie cutter was just rough. You can see what a difference there is in this meringue marshmallow. It literally comes up with the cookie cutter. I have a feeling it would still do that even if it was thicker, but if you're going to cut shapes, definitely use the 9x13 pan. Now, I hope you're looking at this meringue and saying, wow, this has a really pretty cut line this time. And you're right, which is why I wanted to mention that the first batch had crystallization on the top of it. You can see that because it's got cutting across the top, which means the sugar hardened. So if you get non-crystallization, the cut line does come out better, but I would still love to see how a smaller pan of the corn syrup versions looks too. So if you end up trying that, please let me know. I would love to see it over on our Instagram. This is a really good example of the different textures in each recipe. The meringue is really light and fluffy and has all those air bubbles, and my finger bounces right off of it. Versus the corn syrup one, it's so sticky that it's literally pulling on my finger, which is why I highly encourage you to try both recipes and let me know which one's your favorite. Now, I can hear some of you saying it. I can hear it through the screen. That's a big marshmallow. Yeah, to that I say, dream bigger, darling, because cups like this exist, and I intend to use them. However, if you want a more traditional size, don't worry, Walmart has you covered. And we bought this small pack of Christmas cookie cutters in order to try out. These were so much fun to make. And yes, I will admit, these will be a lot easier to fit in most people's cups. Plus, they're so cute. Look at the gingerbread man. And this is a perfect example of what I was talking about when saying this batch has crystallization on the top of it. You can see the top literally flaking off because it's like a sugar cake. And it doesn't mean it's not usable. You will taste the sugar granules, but it just means that I think it affected how clear the line was on this batch because we did not get the same on the second batch, which looked a lot better. And the last part to talk about is storage and how long they will last. Just like store-bought marshmallows, you don't want to store these in the fridge. Just make sure they're covered and in a cool place. Unlike store-bought marshmallows, they don't last as long. These will last up to about 2 weeks, and you will definitely see a change in the meringue. First, you'll get a lot of sugar granules. I can attest to this. And that is everything we learned while trying to cut out shapes from our two favorite marshmallow recipes. There's definitely stuff that I want to try next time, but which one are you going to try? Please let me know in the comments down below. And if you're looking for a different type of kitchen craft, be sure to check out our bowl cozy tutorial that we just released. We'll show you how that you can adjust to your bowls in your own kitchen. Now, don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, and we will see you in our next video.